Today is Saturday, January 18th, and we will look at case number 5 in the Woman Kwan, Shengen's Kyogen in Japanese, up a tree. Shengen said, "It's as though you were up in a tree, hanging from a branch by your teeth. Your hands can't grasp a branch, and your feet can't touch one. Someone appears beneath the tree and asks, 'What is the meaning of Bodhidharmas coming from the West?' If you do not answer, you fail the questioner and evade your responsibility. If you do answer, you lose your life. What do you do?" Wumen's commentary. Even if your eloquence flows like a river, it is all in vain. Even if you can expound the whole body of the sutras, it is to no avail. If you can give an answer here, you will revive the dead and kill the living. If, however, you can't, you'll have to wait and ask Maitreya about it. Wumen's verse. Shengen is truly outrageous. He spreads poison limitlessly. He stops up the monks' mouths and watches them squirm with the black piercing eyes of a devil. Xiang Yan Qi Xin, Chinese dates 898. This is death day is what we have. In Japanese, he's Kyogen Chikan. Maitreya, by the way, of course, is the Buddha of the future, currently residing in the Tushita heaven, and he'll appear in the next world cycle, like 5,670,000,000 years after the death of Shakyamuni, to save human beings. So Shengen was an important Chinese teacher who lived in the 9th century, which is the Great Tang era, the so-called Golden Age of Zen. He was lively, creative, and intellectually quite brilliant. I'm going to read a little bit from Eiken Roshi from The Gateless Barrier, the Woman Kwan in Japanese, Eiken Roshi's translation and commentary, a bit on the background of Shengen. He was a cousin of Lin Ji in the Dharma. His dates of birth and death are unknown, but it seems he was active in the 9th century. His teacher was Kuei-shan, Isan in Japanese, co-founder of the Kuei-yang school of Zen. When Shengen was a young monk, he studied under Baichang, and it was only when Baichang died that he became a disciple of Kuei-shan. He was an intellectual, and like many intellectuals, he had a hard time with the practice at first. One day Kuei-shan said to him, "I am told that you have been under my late master Baichang, and also that you have remarkable intelligence. But the understanding of Zen through this medium necessarily ends in intellectual and analytical comprehension, which is not of much use. Yet you may have some insight into Zen. Let me have your view as to your own being before your parents were born." Shengen couldn't respond. He retired to his room and looked through all his notes of Baichang's Teishos, but he could find nothing suitable. Returning to Kuei-shan, he said, "I have failed to find a response to your question. Please teach me the essential point." Kuei-shan said, "I really have nothing to teach you. And if I tried to express something, later you would revile me. Besides, whatever understanding I have is my own and will never be yours." Shengen thereupon burned his notes and determined that he would be just a rice gruel monk and face Kuei-shan's profound question moment by moment rather than trying to resolve it by means of intellectual research. Hearing that the tomb of Nanyo in Japanese, was being neglected, he asked Kuei-shan's permission to go there and serve as caretaker. Kuei-shan approved, so Shengen built a small hut near the tomb and spent his days cleaning the grounds, absorbed in his koan. One day, while sweeping up fallen leaves, his bamboo broom caught a stone, and it sailed through the air and hit a stalk of bamboo with a little sound. Tok! With that tok, he was awakened. Hurrying to his hut, he bathed and then offered incense and bowed in the direction of Kuei-shan's temple, crying out aloud, "Your kindness is greater than that of my parents. If you had explained it to me, I would have never known this joy." Like the Buddha, This is Aiken Roshi. His preparation under the Bodhi tree invited the morning star. Shengyen's deep absorption in Kuei Shan's koan set the stage for the little stone to do its work. Practice makes Kensho possible, and then an unexpected intervention breaks the spell of time and space. Aiken Roshi adds, it is significant that Shengyen's experience came during Tsowu, Samu in Japanese, which is work ritual, which we do often on Saturday mornings. There won't be time for it this morning. This Chinese Buddhist tradition, carried over into Korea and Japan, is maintained today in Western Zen as part of our natural rhythm of practice, zazen, work, rest, recreation. When zazen is the ground, all other activity is practice too. Shengyen packed up and returned immediately to Kuei Shan and showed him a poem he had composed about his understanding. One talk has made me forget all my previous knowledge. No artificial discipline is needed at all. In every movement I uphold the ancient way and never fall into the rut of mere quietism. Wherever I walk, no traces are left, and my senses are not fettered by rules of conduct. Everywhere those who have found this truth, I will declare it to be of the highest order. Kuei Shan was very pleased with this poem, but his senior disciple, Yangshan, Kyozan, we meet him in our koan curriculum as well, was not satisfied. So Shengyen wrote another poem, My Poverty, and this is a very, very famous verse. In fact, the first one is too, but the second is really a knockout. My poverty last year was not true poverty. This year, it is the real thing. Last year, a fine gimlet, that is like an awl, could find a place. This year, even the gimlet is gone. Whoa, what a great poem. My poverty last year was not true poverty. This year, it is the real thing. Last year, a fine gimlet could find a place. This year, even the gimlet is gone. It's a wonderful recognition that as our practice continues on, but we accept it as wonderful last year. This year we see was shallow, and greater depth is with us. That's a wonderful aspect of ongoing practice realization. To continue on is not just repetition. Something shifts continually as we keep going. Yangshan said, you have attained to Tathagata Zen all right, but you don't even have an inkling of ancestral Zen. Aiken Roshi writes, these categories aren't particularly significant in themselves. The point is that Yangshan was not yet confident of his brother's insight. So Shengyen wrote still another poem. I have a single potential. It can be seen in a solitary twinkle. If you still don't understand, call the acolyte and ask him about it. Aiken Roshi writes, call the little boy monk and ask him. Surely this transcends even Zen itself. And indeed, Yangshan approved at last. Chao Chu, when asked the ultimate meaning of the Buddha Dharma, said the oak tree in the front garden. It's like, call the acolyte, call the little kid who doesn't know a thing. There you have it. So the question here is, why did the first patriarch, the ex-Indian prince Bodhidharma, at quite an advanced age make the difficult and dangerous journey across the sea from the west, that is India, although it may also have an implication of a mythic realm, the western paradise of Amitabha Buddha, to China? What was so important that he just had to do it? Risks be damned. And indeed, it was a difficult journey. It said it took him 3 years and a number of tries. Not everyone made it. Ships went down. There he is at this very old age, very, very old. He's determined to make this journey. Why? What's the meaning of Bodhidharma's coming from the West? The question, why did Bodhidharma come from the West, is Zen shorthand for what is the highest meaning of the Buddha's teaching. And it appears again and again in our koan curriculum. The demand for an answer to such a fundamental question forces us to clarify what it is, or what it might be, that makes this path worth risking life and limb to attain and to share. If out of personal insight we can adequately answer this challenge, the implication here is that we know something worth knowing. There are religions that seem to feel it's fine to run on faith without personal experience of what it might be all about. I'd agree that it is okay up to a point. We all begin with faith and with some trust in the words of those we respect who've gone further down the road than we have. Shang Yan, however, finds such a situation intolerable. She demands that we answer for ourselves or else, hence the scenario he presents. In the Hekiganroku, Pian Lu in Chinese, Blue Cliff Record in English, Shang Yan himself responds to this very same question by saying, sitting long, getting tired. That's his answer in this instance as to why Bodhidharma came from the West. Although this offers a true taste of Zen, to be clear, even sitting for as long as Bodhidharma, who we're told sat facing the wall for 9 years, is no guarantee of actually realizing sitting long, getting tired. Sitting for a long time could just be a matter of sitting waiting for something to happen, or sitting there feeling virtuous, or sitting feeling I'm tough to get through all this, or sitting dreaming, hoping, or perversely dreading that enlightenment might strike at any moment. Forcing yourself to sit for as long as possible could still, as good as it is, turn out to miss the boat. Of course, no genuine effort is wasted. Each step has its own particular value. Yet as Wan Wu, compiler of and commentator on the Hekiganroku, tends to say, fortunately, this has nothing to do with it. Sheng Yan creates a situation to help us clarify the central point. It's as if you were up in a tree, hanging from a branch by your teeth. Your hands can't reach a branch, and your feet can't touch one. Someone comes and standing below asks, what is the meaning of Bodhidharma's coming from the West? You must respond, or you fail them and yourself. Yet if you do, you will lose your life. What do you do? What is the highest, truest meaning of the Buddha's teaching? Isn't this a question we face every day? Why am I here on this earth? What do I really believe? Who am I? What am I? Why am I practicing? What do I stand for? Aren't they all versions of, why did Bodhidharma come from the West? That was his expression of the highest meaning. He headed across the sea to China to teach. What is the highest meaning of our own life? How do we express it? And maybe the question doesn't even come to us in words. Maybe a child asks simply by watching how we actually live. Or maybe a spouse or partner who with a look asks, why do you go off to sit anyway? Or maybe it's a question we pose ourselves like, why do I continue? Why do I keep practicing? Coming to Sesshin or coming to Doksan, we can encounter a primal fear. The fear that will be exposed and our shortcomings revealed. We may dread having to face our own inability to answer a question put to us that will be shown up as inadequate. The places we've been successful and respected may get stripped away, and a revealing light shone on the hung-up, egotistic self we still are. We'd like something solid beneath us. We'd like something to hold on to. Why go on, we may ask ourselves. And there we are, hanging from a branch by our teeth, with nothing solid to support us, nothing to cling to. It is quite uncomfortable. And yet, the dilemma is not an artificial one. It is oddly familiar. Sheng Yan, brilliant as he is not simply concocted something artificial to serve as a challenge. No! Rather, he puts his finger on an anxiety that underlies even our best days. Our own daily situation is never terribly secure. Even with some degree of wealth and comfort, illness can strike and quickly steal our life away. A natural disaster can leave us homeless, and personal heartbreak can drive us into grief and desperation. And it hardly need be so dramatic. As thinking, conscious beings, we know that we must age, that we will periodically deal with illness, and that one day we must die. Though we know it, the truth of this knowledge can remain dormant, vague and distant for years. Then one day, like the Buddha heading for the first time out into his city, we may suddenly realize deeply and personally that while we don't want to leave sunlight, raindrops, clouds, snowflakes, flowers, ants, crows, the taste of pizza, Indian buffet, the touch of a hand, the music of Beethoven and John Coltrane, the sound of wind in the trees, the faces of beloved family and friends, we will, whether we want to or not, we will leave. Life, even at its best, is impermanent. Wu Men, using Xiang Yan's challenge, doesn't offer us comfort. Instead, he throws the whole anxiety-producing mess in our face. Xiang Yan himself knew this dilemma personally. Though he was intellectually brilliant, his teacher Kuei Shan's profound non-explanation, his refusal to explain, is what opened his mind's eye. Kuei Shan's unyielding determination was his own demonstration of the meaning of Bodhidharmas coming from the West. It was also an expression of faith, faith in what realization reveals and faith in his students' potential. And he too did it while hanging from a tree by his teeth, with Xiang Yan begging for a response from below. This doesn't mean that at times explanations can't be useful. Words can help up to a point, but it's not the words that bring about realization. If it were the words, then every cogent explanation would do the trick. There, I've made it clear. Now you're enlightened. Congratulations. Good luck. Ha! What is it to lose one's life? Wu Men's verse to case number 1 in The Gateless Barrier, Chao Chu's dog, says, dog, Buddha nature, the full presentation of the whole, with a bit of has or has not. Body is lost. Life is lost. There are consequences to thoughts and actions. To be lost in our heads is to lose one's life, one's real life. Cut off from friends, family, wind, rain, snowflakes, barking dogs, rivers, mountains, forests, and seas. We live in a dream. And in that dream, may also dream that something important is missing. This sense of something important being missing propels us into practice realization. We want to gain or refine that real life, the one we sensed we had from the start. Back even when we were just kids, back when the sun shone like gold and the grass was endlessly green, the sky endlessly blue. We've all had a taste of it because it's truly who and what we are. It's not something we need gain or add. Quite naturally, at some point, we seek to reclaim our real life of wholeness and connection. But there seems to be a veil between us and everything. But to remove the veil and gain what we seek, we must lose, for a timeless moment, our limited, dualistic, delusional, mentally clung to life. In Zen, this letting go is called dropping body and mind, or dying the great death. One tuck, and all is forgotten. All knowledge of me in here and you out there, gone, entirely gone, as the Prajna Paramita puts it. That dreaded loss is simply a loss of error. It's like waking from a dream. Yet we fear that losing of our habitual self-centeredness will somehow mean losing ourselves. No, it's just the opposite. The paradox is that losing is finding. Losing our eyes, we see. Losing our ears, we truly hear. No one hearing is real hearing. No one dancing is real dancing. We've all experienced such moments. Our best moments were not the times we were wound up entangled in self-consciousness, were they? Rather, they were and are those times when we forgot ourselves and let the world in. Intimacy is the real meaning of enlightenment. It can't be gained, as it has always been here, and we can awake to it, which is Zen practice realization, focusing on the count, the breath, the koan, or on just sitting. Our unconscious habit of thinking, me in here, you out there, can fade away. Attending fully to the practice, there's no room in the mind for the old self-centered mind road to continue. Sengai, the lively Zen monk ink painter, wrote a poem which he attached to his painting of Shengyan Sweeps the Ground. The verse he wrote goes like this: one talk, and knowledge is forgotten. What kind of sound is that? At once, a bit of rubble turns itself into gold. One talk, and knowledge is forgotten. What kind of sound is that? At once, a bit of rubble turns itself into gold. Hung up, feeling separate and alone. We struggle with anxiety over our impermanence. For a time, we may lose ourselves in a book, a movie, music, a good meal, a compelling project, or simply in hanging out with family and friends, all of which can be not only helpful, but deeply nourishing and valuable. I remember having lunch in Honolulu with Eiken Roshi. I asked him, so what is Zen really all about? He answered, happiness. Then he paused and caught himself, and this is where it got interesting. He saw that he had fallen into a cliched response. He then resumed and said, no, many people in this world are happy. They are fully absorbed in their work, in their relationships and families, so they're happy. With the self gone, fully absorbed in these things, they're at ease, they're happy. But if awareness of impermanence has caught you, if it has bitten deep and those good things no longer keep you from waking in the night, wondering what it's all about, why you're here, and why you must die, then Zen can show you the way to happiness. The dualistic awareness that I'm in here and everyone and everything else out there, and that this little I, the cherished central sun of my little personal solar system around which all other lives, like so many planets, revolve, is actually totally impermanent and must die, is terrifying. Good thoughts, nice memories, pithy phrases, wonderful teachings, all deconstruct in time, and once more we find ourselves facing the curse of every conscious thinking being, the sense of an ending. Dukkha is a Sanskrit term for this very ordinary condition. It means something like a wheel rubbing and grinding as it turns on its axle, not running true. It translates typically as suffering. How can our wheel run true? How, in the midst of our ordinary troubles, can we find freedom and wisdom, joy and peace? How do we not feel separate and apart? Isn't this why Bodhidharma came from the West, to help us know this? To help us know wisdom, truth, and peace? To help us get free? So then what is that teaching that does the job? And how will you express it? In his verse to the case, Wumen, creator of the Wumen Quan, or gateless barrier, states that Sheng Yan's intention is truly poisonous, for he stops up the monks' mouths and glares at them with the piercing eyes of a devil. Out of immense kindness, he strips all their ploys away, really all our ploys, and demands a genuine, that is valid and useful response to the human condition. His challenge should make us break out in a cold sweat. He leaves us no hiding places. He drives us to step forward and act. And yet, how do we not fail? How do we save ourselves and others? It's not a simple challenge. It's a real predicament. Wu Men nails down the lid of our coffin, adding, even if your eloquence flows like a river, it is all in vain. Even if you can expound the whole body of the sutras, it is to no avail. Learning, eloquence, smarts, the things we have invested heavily in and typically have learned to rely on, won't help. Don't answer and you fail. Answer and you fall. Gravity wins. Even if you can talk your way out of all dilemmas, escape that speeding ticket, convince the IRS they're wrong on your tax returns, there's one ticket you can never evade. Even if you persuasively expound abstruse Buddhist teachings and recite all the sutras, even if you are an Einstein or Shakespeare, when you stub your toe, you'll shout, ouch. And when you age, you'll get frail. And when the time comes for the curtain to fall, you will die. Explanation doesn't free anyone. Words can't even transmit to you the taste of this tea that I'm drinking. Yet the call of a bird, the fall of a leaf, the tuck of a stone hitting a tree, through years of ongoing, sometimes desperate, sometimes steady practice, can at once bring us home. To repeat Sengai's verse for his painting of this koan case, one tuck, and knowledge is forgotten. What kind of sound is that? At once a bit of rubble turns itself into gold. Indeed, what kind of sound is that? The grass growing up through the cracks in the sidewalk has become so precious. The caw of the crow now says it all. When we come truly alive, we find our treasure everywhere. Wu Men then seemingly extends us an olive branch. You can give an answer, he says. You will revive the dead and kill the living. Who are the dead? What is it to revive them? Who are the living? And why and how kill them? Do these two acts differ? Reviving the dead sounds familiar. The 10th and final picture of the Zen ox herding pictures is entering the market with helping hands. The verse to it includes the line, without recourse to mystic powers, withered trees he swiftly brings to life. To kill the living, though stuck in the life in their heads, is to revive the dead. If our dualistic thinking could be momentarily taken from us, we'd spring to life, our blossoms open, our leaves unfurl, we'd put forth new green life, and it's true. But after raising our hope, Zen Master Wu Men shifts his stance. If, however, you can't answer, can't revive the dead and kill the living, you'll have to wait and ask Maitreya about it. If you can't do it now, then the Buddha-to-be will show it to you. Well, that sounds pretty good. Tradition says Maitreya, the future Buddha, is now up in the Tushita heavens, working on skillful means to save all beings, which includes us. He's working on helping all beings answer the question of why Bodhidharma came from the West. Getting it clear, he's also preparing for that future time when he himself will be hanging from that branch, and his chance to tell the truth and save not just one person, but all living beings will have come round at last. Unfortunately, heavenly time, galactic time, moves differently than time here on Earth. A single year there could be thousands or millions here. So it's going to take him a long time, millions or even billions of years is what the tradition says, before he joins us back down here. Can we really wait? That's an awfully long time to be hanging unsettled, teeth clenched, unable to reach a branch, unable to set our feet on anything that bears our weight, an unimaginably, dreadfully long time. It might be better to do it ourselves now. Wu Men's verse, Shengen is truly outrageous. He spreads poison limitlessly. He stops up the monks' mouths and watches them squirm with the black, piercing eyes of a devil. This is Wu Men's way of praising, telling us that Shengen, using both words and silence, has created a brilliant path by which wisdom can reveal itself. It won't be easy for his students facing him in Doksan, which means us, any more than it was for him. Shengen knows personally that no concept, no eloquence can save us. No explanation can put a stop to the anguish arising from our fundamental error of seeing and living separated dualistic lives. Shengen won't allow us to take refuge in our usual tricks. His poison is so virulent, it kills all concepts and stops our babbling. But he's not being mean. He really wants to free us. This is his way of paying back the immense debt of gratitude he owes his teacher, Kuei-shan, whose resolute non-explanation brought him to life. Shengen's not posing this dilemma because he enjoys making us squirm. Those Dharma ancestors, Shengen and Wu Men, are doing their best to help us realize our original freedom and truly live each changing life situation to the hilt fully. Each changing life situation to the hilt fully. It is their presentation of the highest meaning of the Buddhist teaching, the meaning of Bodhidharmas coming from the West. Sometimes the bare truth and a sense of urgency can be the greatest gifts. How will you resolve Shengen's person up in a tree dilemma? Let me add, there's a case in the Shoyoroku where two teachers are talking that this reminds me of. One teacher says to the other, all sentient beings are in a disordered karmic consciousness and have nothing to rely on. What do you say? What will you say to somebody who comes to you with that? He says, when somebody comes to me with that, I call to them. When they pause and turn their head, I say, what is it? When they hesitate, I say, all sentient beings are in a disordered karmic consciousness and have nothing to rely upon. The other teacher said, oh, good.